I didn't take a flu shot. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I've ever had a flu shot, folks. And I'm not telling you not to take a flu shot. Some people need them, maybe as we age, younger people, et cetera. Your doctor and you can decide that together. But are there alternatives? In other words, what I'm going to talk about today is the doctor's idea of prevention is a flu shot. Your idea of prevention might be to exercise, take more vitamin C, take beta-glucan. The things I talk about on this show, I think diet plays a huge role in who ends up with the flu and not. But let you and your doctor make that decision. This is to be taped and learned from over and over and over again, okay? Now, dear friend of mine, he's written a book called Antifungal Therapy that's way over my head. It's a medical textbook. To my friend Doug, blessings always, Mahood. His name is Mahood Ghanum. He and I have known each other for several years. We Skyped him. He is at Case Western Medical School. He's a tenured professor. He is the doctor that discovered, 3-4 years ago, that Crohn's disease had a fungal component. Folks, before his discovery, everybody goes on an antibiotic. And yet, is Crohn's a fungal disease? He'll share that information. Pulmonary fungus. How does fungus get in your lungs? It's limited to those who inhale. All of us. Watch.
For the past 45 years, I have dedicated my life and my whole career to finding the root cause of disease. And I now know with certainty that we must play a role in our own health care. I'm a self-care advocate, and you know what? Every time you change your diet for the better, exercise, or swallow a nutritional supplement, so are you. Now welcome to Know the Cause.
Okay, friends, we need to talk a little bit about, no matter what time of year it is, the cold and flu season. How many of you get through, October, November, December, January, February, and then in April or June, you get the cold? It's kind of become perennial. It's not just seasonal anymore. There's kids, grandkids, et cetera, that we want to hug, and they sneeze on us, and we seem to pick up what they have. But cold and flu season is upon us. So let's study this. There's really two schools of thought, options for preventing fall and winter sickness. We tend to call it flu season. Some rely on the flu vaccine to prevent the flu. The Center for Disease Control's seasonal flu vaccine effectiveness. Look at these numbers. In 2009 and 10, the flu shot was 50% effective. In 10 and 11, it was 60%. In 11 and 12, it was 47. In 2012 and 13, it was 49. In 2013, 14, 52. Now look at this next one. In 2014 and 50, 19% effective. Yet we kept using it. In 2015, 16, it was less than half, 48%. 2016, it was 40%. 2017, 38%. During the past decade, the flu shot has been from 19 to 60% effective in preventing the flu. I need to comment on that because I'm a guy who had some college and I had some high school. And every time a teacher walked down the aisle, or you'd pick up your paper, you'd look on the wall in college when the teacher would post it. If you got a 60, you got a D. A 59 is an F. We are hitting Ds and almost all Fs with the flu shot. Did you know that? Folks, this is not a show telling you not to get a flu shot, because arguably many of you have taken the flu shot and your doctor recommended it and you're doing great. You haven't had the flu in many years. But the flip side of that coin is many people get the flu shot and say, I'm never taking that again. I got sick after it. To which the Center for Disease Control and all these pharmaceutical companies say impossible. That's a dead virus. Don't you want it reconstituted in your body? Isn't that the way it works? So it can stave off the infection from the viri. It's the way it works. So it's sad that we're getting two stories here. Okay, the cold and flu season. Here's the other option. The first is a flu shot. The second, we the people decide to govern our health more carefully. Statistics are difficult because we are most concerned with keeping ourselves and our inner circle of family and friends well. Here's what I do. And I've already begun this, beginning October, November. Double my regular 10 milligram dose of beta-glucan. Continue regular exercise, especially when I don't want to. And that's just like 2 times a week I don't want to. The other 3 or 4 times I do. Make every effort to eat more wisely. Okay, I sometimes challenge my diet during the holidays. In that case, organic juice, more beets, carrots, kale, etc. I mean, we really do have control over these things. I've got to tell you, the more I'm here, the more I understand the role of these fungi in cold weather. We don't go out if we live in certain areas of the world. It's too cold. So we flip on the heat. All year it's been air conditioning, and there's dampness now in that HVAC system. Now we turn on the heat, and any mold that's colonized in there is blowing on us. Wait a minute, Doug. This is a virus from Japan that blows in here to the US or other countries. That's what we're told. I wonder how much of a role. I think in the future we're going to find that fungus plays much more of a role in us getting sick, okay? You have more control over your lifestyle than pharmaceutical companies have over their flu shot. Boy, if that isn't the truth. Always share the vaccine concerns with your doctor before injection, because that plunger only goes one way. You can only push it. You can't pull the vaccine back out. Do doctors know this? The package insert for one flu vaccine, called Flulaval, states this: there have been no controlled trials adequately demonstrating a decrease in the flu after vaccination with this product. What? What? It says it on the label. We don't know if it's going to work or not, but it's only $85. You know, something we're seeing all over this little town, and maybe you are too, and that is free flu shot. Just bring in your insurance card. Can you imagine what they're billing insurance? Don't get me started. But there's also this side of the story: supplements. Do vitamin C and D prevent the flu? Manny Alvarez, a physician, a couple of years ago with Fox News said, your best bet to prevent the flu is to get vaccinated, okay? That's supplements. Should we take supplements? Your best bet's to get vaccinated. How about eating well? Healthy habits to help prevent flu. The CDC states, Center for Disease Control, the best way, single best way to prevent the seasonal flu is to get vaccinated every year. Man, and those numbers are 19 to 60%. That's the best way. How about exercise? Does exercise prevent the common cold? In a Korean study done a few years ago, there is no good evidence that exercise reduces the risk of colds. Exercise should not be encouraged within the argument that it would reduce the risk of colds. Folks, in America, we're free to choose. Look at this. It is likely that both approaches are from 19 to 60%. Whether I want to take vitamins, begin exercising, watch my diet, probably 19 to 60%. As we age, we become more vulnerable to germs. So please take that into account. Some may benefit from doing both options, getting the flu shot and being proactive with their health. Know the upsides and the downsides to any of these. And finally, in the last 15, 30 seconds we have, let me tell you this. Either way, get some good, safe supplements like beta-glucan, olive leaf extract, probiotics, grapefruit seed extract, silver solutions at home in your, in quotes, medicine cabinet. Keep some bone broth soup in the freezer and plenty of garlic and organic veggies and fruits to get you through. Many feel that we don't catch a cold, rather we eat and drink a cold. Sometimes this is true. Stay well, okay? I hope that sinks in. Flu shots are okay. So is governing your health more carefully. Friends, joining me right now is a dear friend of mine. I've wanted to meet him for many years. His name is Dr. Ghannoum. He's at Case Western University. Mahmoud Ghannoum. Thank you for being with us, Dr. Ghannoum.
It's my great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You don't know what a blessing you are to people watching right now. Folks, do you suffer with bloating, belching, gas, constipation, diarrhea, indigestion, GERD? You're always like that. This is the doctor who figured out, he's been in this field for decades, 4 decades plus. But he figured out in 2016, he led investigations from doctors all over the country. And one day, Science Daily published it. I subscribed to this. All my doctor friends, Dr. Ghannoum, all of a sudden, my phone starts going ping, ping, ping. The headline says, fungus in humans identified for the first time as a key factor in Crohn's disease. This man became my hero. I got him on the phone and thanked him because we had been helping so many people with gut problems with probiotics and a changed diet and so forth. So, Dr. Ghannoum, again, all of our privilege, wonderful to be with you. What are we eating that seems to contribute to all of these bowel diseases? Are we doing the wrong thing with our food, or how does the fire start in our gut?
Really, the fire starts with what we eat. We should try to eat food that's gonna support the good microorganisms in our gut, which is both bacteria and fungi, while suppressing or inhibiting the growth of the bad ones, such as Candida, for example, one of the main fungus, as well as E. coli and other bacterial pathogens.
Yep. And you wrote a book. I think this is so great. Here's, folks, let me just give you an example. Antifungal Therapy, second edition. It weighs 40 pounds. I do my curls with this book. But he was kind enough to sign a copy of this. This is a doctor who writes medical textbooks. And here he has now written a book directly to we, the public, on what we should be eating. It's called The Total Gut Balance, by one of the most preeminent doctors in this field, who studies the terrain of the gut. Tease us a little bit, Dr. Ghanum. What are some, give us one or two yes and one or two no foods.
Well, yes food is plant-based proteins.
Plants.
Fish, fantastic, such as salmon, it's great. Also, some of the nice garlic, as well as olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, all of these are good. A no goes first to sugar. Simple sugar is a terrible thing to eat. Why? Because it supports the growth of fungus, which cause issues in our gut. Again, saturated fatty acids, not a good thing to have. Finally, processed food, cured meat, for example. Again, we don't know what's in them, but definitely they feed the bad bugs in our gut. We need to keep them under control.
And I've always wondered, I read these articles like you do about meat, you know, inducing cancer, heart disease, and so forth. And I've always wondered if there isn't two meats, right? The meat that's grass-fed, grass-finished, and then the meat with zearalenone, you know, the hormone, estrogenic hormone, and antibiotics in it. Do you ever wonder about that? Is it the meat itself, the cow, the chicken, or is it what we've stimulated its growth with?
It's two things here. One is the meat is important, but it's good to have meat from chicken instead of beef. It's good to have your meat from fish, as I mentioned, salmon, but also if you want to eat steak, try to get the organic one that definitely not antibiotic fed just to keep them live longer and have more. No, we don't need those that eat antibiotics. So you are absolutely right.
What was it like after writing all these medical books and 400 papers? What was it like to sit down and put a book together directly to the public? Was it fun or was it difficult?
I tell you something, I had great fun. Because, as you know, we scientists sometimes are too complicated. We describe things in such a complex manner. So it was fun to try to learn how to write for the general public. So I really loved it. It was a challenge, but I learned so much out of it, and which makes me happy.
His work is changing not only the terrain, his work is changing lives. Thank you so much, Dr. Ghanum, for being on with us.
Thank you, Doug, for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. How many of you folks suffer from, painful back or hips, right? That's because we're always this way. What if we were that way? What about Superman when he flies, right? His arms go up, his legs go back. You can do this, only do it on a carpet or grass out in your backyard. Don't try this jumping off your roof and doing it, right? This is the Superman exercise, and it's so good for straightening out all of those aches and pains in the spine. Look at this. Good for the core, good for the legs, lifting back like that. This is all part of getting healthy again, right? You're on the diet, you feel so good, but you're not quite sleeping well at night. The mood is a little off, right? Your doctor's telling you there might be a ticker problem. Always check with your doctor before you begin these exercises. But look at this. Try this. 20 seconds up, 20 seconds down. 20 seconds up, 20 seconds down and watch in a week. Oh, it'll hurt initially, but watch in a week when you can do this 3 or 4 times along with the diet, along with the supplements, along with improving the ticker in your circulation, the heart in your circulation. See how this exercise works. The important thing is it's an exercise to be added to the diet, the supplements, the feeling great again. You know, folks, I've been at this a long, long time, some 50 years, and back in the early 1970s when I got back from Vietnam, I went to work for an ear, nose, and throat doctor, a magnificent man, one of my mentors. His name was Hrbacek, right out near the airport at Los Angeles. And I worked for him for 6 or 7 years, and I learned about ear, nose, and throat, and I learned how many pulmonary conditions, through the nose or the mouth, pulmonary fungal conditions there were. About 2 or 3 years ago, I'm the keynote speaker, bunch of doctors, bunch of universities talking about fungus. I was the keynote speaker, so that meant at dinner time on Saturday night, under the chandelier while they were all eating, I got to talk about mold and the indication that cancer may be misdiagnosed as a mold infection, a fungal infection, and they all loved it. One particular doctor is a pulmonary specialist and an internal medicine specialist, and he's out here probably 40, 50 miles from me. After that lecture, Sunday morning, he came up, put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Your lecture changed my world." As a keynote speaker, that's what you want. You want to impact especially doctors, because if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach doctors that many of their patients have mold problems, you enable those patients to eat. And then they tell their friends and they tell their friends and so forth. So we're going to talk for a few minutes about pulmonary and sinus mycoses. Okay, let's start with this graphic. As recently as 25 years ago, inhaled mold was considered primarily just a nuisance, not a serious health threat. This comes out of the environmental health perspectives. But the growing scientific and medical evidence suggests the threat is widespread, and for some people it's quite serious. Okay, this is a book, 22, 23 years old, Principles and Practice of Clinical Mycology. They devote a whole chapter, chapter 11, fungal infections of the ear, nose, and throat. Another chapter is pulmonary mycoses, pulmonary fungal conditions. So it's not shocking that people living in a moldy home, working in a moldy building, etc., are inhaling all the time, and this mold, when they go outside, the mold doesn't leave them. It's viscous, it sticks to the lungs, and begins reproducing and makes your life miserable. Now, so what does the Center for Disease Control say about mold? Really nothing substantial until 2017, 2018. And here's what they said in 2017. Fungal diseases like valley fever or bloodstream candida infections called candidemia can cause serious illness and even death. I highlighted this one. Inhaling fungus causes many fungal diseases. Hospitals certain prescribe drugs like antibiotics, and having impaired immunity, among other things, increases your vulnerability to fungus, okay? Then, because of fungal diseases mimic so many other diseases, fungal diagnoses are delayed, and then this one, talk to your doctor about the possibility of a fungal infection if you're not getting better. Sidebar, what that's really saying is if you've been on antibiotics or antidepressants or statin drugs for a long period of time and they don't seem to be working, always, not sometimes, think fungus. Because the infection on antibiotics, doctors believe most, if not all, infections are bacterial. I believe, and I'm teaching this to doctors now, that think fungus. Fungus until proven otherwise. FUPO, fungus until proven otherwise. And many of them are understanding, like this pulmonary doctor. He's done research. He's done 300 bronchoscopies where they go in with a tube and look in your lungs, take a little bit of the tissue, and then assay it, test it. And they're finding fungus in 70 to 80% of these conditions that your pulmonologist is writing a prescription for. And that prescription is an antibiotic. Wrong drug. It's a fungal infection, okay? Many new studies have provided additional evidence that mold likely deserves serious attention. Thank you. This is 2007. It is likely that building dampness and mold have caused widespread but largely unrecognized adverse respiratory health effects for centuries, says William Fisk, acting director for the Environmental Energy Technology Division at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. Okay, and finally this, I'll never forget this, folks. This came on 9/9/99. I didn't have a cell phone back then, probably not even a computer. But my fax machine in the office kept ding, 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 ding. All my doctor friends were saying, maybe you're right, Kaufman. Here it was. Mayo Clinic study indicates fungus as the cause of chronic sinusitis. Up to now, they say the cause of chronic sinusitis really hasn't been known, say the Mayo researchers. Antibiotics and over-the-counter decongestants are widely used to treat chronic sinusitis, but they found 96% of these chronic sinus infections were not bacterial, they were fungal, and we can now begin to treat the cause of the problem instead of the symptom. That makes you excited. Now here's the fact. We're still grossly overprescribing antibiotics for chronic sinus problems, for any health problem, folks. Doctors need to be taught antibiotic stewardship, which they're trying to get right now. Not going well, but they're trying to get it. They need to be taught that mold, fungus is the etiology, is the cause. So treat these patients with a drug, but make sure it's the right drug. Antifungals are far too little prescribed. Antibiotics, far too much prescribed. Okay? Fungus is often the cause.
Hi, I'm Jenny Hrbacek, here with the Cancer Connection. If you're like most of the Know the Cause viewers, you try to model your food choices around the principles of the Kaufman Phase 1 and Phase 2 antifungal diets. But when we hit the grocery store, we're bombarded with lots of supposedly healthy options. I want to talk to you about one specific ingredient that I see on my trips to the grocery store, and that's xylitol. Xylitol is a sugar alcohol that tastes like sugar. Because it doesn't raise the blood sugar levels as much as sugar does, it's a popular ingredient in diabetic foods. Studies suggest that it can improve dental health, so you often find it in chewing gum and toothpaste. But did you know that xylitol is a hidden source of GMOs? Most xylitol is produced from corn cobs, and since about 90% of corn grown in the United States is genetically modified, that means that a lot of xylitol comes from a GMO source. And GMOs have been linked to disruption of the gut flora, creating an increased risk for cancer. So be sure to read those labels. For Know the Cause, I'm Jenny Hrbacek.
Thank you, Dr. Ganoum. Dear friend, I continuously learn from this man. Folks, you have options. There are obvious options. What's your concept of prevention? A shot? Or an exercise program? Or supplementation? Or a completely changed diet? We do have options. Don't let me make that decision for you. Remember, you're taping this show to learn from it over and over and over again, unlike any other television show. Thank you so much for being here, telling your friends about this show, and know that we don't demonstrate by shaking our finger. We rather use words to help educate you. There are two sides to every story. Know the cause helps you know the other side. God bless you, folks. We'll see you next time.